So let's talk about practical principles of prayer. The first thing I want to discuss is the fact that prayer is hard work, and that we have to move through 3 stages to get to a place where we will pray more often. Those stages are, you have to start with desire, which most people have. They want to pray, but then you have to go to discipline, and that's the hard part. Only after you get through discipline will prayer become a delight. So here are the 3 stages: desire, discipline, and delight. So I want to pray, but how do I get discipline in my life to where now I enjoy praying and I love to pray? Well, the secret to discipline is your schedule. So if you want to discipline yourself to pray, it starts with your calendar. You have to set up a meeting with God at the same time every day. Set up an appointment with God on your calendar. Now, typically I don't talk a lot about my personal prayer life because it's personal with me, and it's not something that I put on display. But about 30 years ago, I heard some teachings on prayer. I read an E.M. Bound book on prayer. I was a young minister, and I really realized that I needed to start a prayer life in my life. Well, I had a difficult time. I remember the first time I heard about Prayer Mountain, and then he was Pastor David Youngie Cho was Paul Youngie Cho, and he was talking about getting up at 4:30 in the morning. So I started getting out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, trying to pray, and I would sleep through most of it. And it became a disappointment for me. And I could not find the right rhythm of prayer for my life. So I tried praying late at night, praying by my bedside. I didn't last long. I waited too late. I was already sleepy. My wind down routine, brushing your teeth, saying goodnight to your family, all those things stopped me from praying regularly at the same time. I tried my lunch hour. I tried 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, I had to find a rhythm. So for me, I found out that the morning rhythm was best for me, just not quite at 4:30. So I started getting up at 6 o'clock in those days. My goal in the beginning was to pray for 15 minutes. It seemed like 15 hours when I first started praying. And I thought I would never get through that 15 minutes. And that's because I had no tools, I had no structure, I had no plan to pray. I was just getting down and praying from memory all the things that I could think to pray. I also grew up in a Pentecostal church where everyone prayed fervently. They prayed hard. So I thought that I had to get on my knees, and stand on your knees for 15 minutes is quite a challenge. So I had to get on my knees and I had to pray really hard. And after 15 minutes, I was done. I was ready to get up. Well, there was a lot I needed to learn about prayer. But I started by making an appointment. I started getting up and praying every day at 6 o'clock. And 30 years later, I still do that. And it's actually more than 30 years now. It's going on 35 or 37 years now that I've been doing this. And I have to tell you, it is such a delight. It is my favorite part of my whole day, bar none, every single day. My favorite part of the day is when I get up, I go to the coffee pot, I make my first cup of coffee, and I go into my meeting with God. Now, how did I turn desire into discipline and discipline into delight? Well, it is my delight now because of the routine and rhythm that I have found for my prayer life. Now, I no longer get on my knees and beat my fists and yell the way I was doing it in the beginning. I do that sometimes if I need to, but I've learned about the different types of prayer. I've learned that prayer is a conversation with God. I've learned that there's a lot of different ways to express your needs to the Lord and to hear from Him. I also learned this, that God wants to talk too. Sometimes prayer is not so much about what I have to say, but about how well I can listen. Be still and know that I'm God.